I'm running to become the next Attorney General for the state of California because I also believe it is the California Attorney General who can and should make one of the loudest and clearest statements about the very direct connection between public safety and public education. So what am I talking about? Well, I did a study a couple years ago. We had a rash of homicides in San Francisco. It was an issue for all of us in city leadership. So I said, well, as a staff person, tell me who are our homicide victims who were under the age of 25 when they were killed. And the data came back. And it included the fact that 94% of them were high school dropouts. So then I went over to the school district and I asked the superintendent of schools, what's going on? And she said, well, Kamala, you know, of the few number of children we have in San Francisco public schools, 5,500 have been designated as habitually and chronically truant. And of the 5,500, 2,400 are elementary school students. So we know those children will never be productive a day in their lives. So then I said, well, would you please be so kind as to hold a meeting for me with all of the principals and administrators at the San Francisco Public School District? And she said yes. And so there I stood before them in a local high school auditorium, and I shared with them a fact about myself. I am a product of California public schools. My first grade teacher, Mrs. Frances Wilson, God rest her soul, attended my law school graduation. I would not be standing here were it not for the education I received. And I believe that a child going without an education is tantamount to a crime. So I have decided, I declared to all of these San Francisco administrators and principals, I've decided I'm going to start prosecuting parents for truancy. Now, if you know anything about San Francisco politics, you will appreciate that this was a little controversial. And my staff went bananas, as an aside, because it was before we knew if I was going to have an opponent in my re-election race. And they said, can't you wait? You're going to bring the wrath of everything on us. And I said, look, I'm done. And I've got a little political capital, and I'm going to spend some of it. Because this is an important issue. And so here's what we did. Well, as an aside, one of the benefits of being the chief elected law enforcement officer of a major city in this country is that the job comes with a really big badge. And there's an artistic rendering of that badge on your stationery. So I sent a letter out on my letterhead to all of the parents in the San Francisco Unified School District, outlining the connections, right, between who, without an education, will end up invariably being first a victim of crime and also eventually a perpetrator of crime. Laid all that out, told them the intention that I had to prosecute. And in fact, I got a call from a friend of mine, and he said, Kamala, my wife got the letter. She freaked out. She called all the kids into the living room, held up the letter, said, if you don't go to school, Kamala's going to put you and me in jail. And here's what we also did. We created what we call the DA mediation program. And I assigned prosecutors to go and sit with the administrators when they sat with the parents. The prosecutors I assigned, I said, when you go over there, look really mean. And so invariably the parent would say, well, who's the mean looking dude? And they'd say, well, that's somebody that the mean DA sent over here because she said she's going to start prosecuting you if we can't work this out. And here's what we found. We found cases like the one involving the woman who is raising her 3 children by herself, holding down 2 jobs, and homeless. This woman just needed some help. But by shining the spotlight, the infrared light that comes with law enforcement, on the fact that her kids weren't in school, we were able to deal with that and get her access to services that were already available. And over the course of this initiative, we have increased the attendance rate by an average of 20% in San Francisco. So this is some of the work that I've done. As it relates specifically to all of you and your leadership in Silicon Valley, I will share with you another fact that is very, very significant, I think, in terms of why we've got to really do this and move forward. Government has become quite obsolete. You know, you wouldn't probably have known that the San Francisco DA's office, 2/3 of the lawyers didn't have email, but that's almost criminal. Because one of the things that you all are doing and producing and creating here is you have created a tool, a technology that allows for increased efficiency, because communication is encouraged that will be accurate, because you have figured out how to work systems in a way that it is efficient with our time and our resources. And government is obsolete, and we have to adopt the technologies that have been born right here in California into our government if we are going to increase our ability to actually do better work with increasingly diminishing resources. And what we want to do, and what I intend to do, is in particular partner with all of you here around what we can do to bring that technology not only to the AG's office as a law office, but also to law enforcement throughout this state. Also in a way that we can look at what law enforcement should frankly be doing a lot better around creating consequences for crimes that are being committed through this beautiful technology. In particular, what's happening around everything from spam to con artists preying on everyone from children to seniors through the use of the internet, to what is happening in terms of identity theft, and it being a prevalent crime and problem that is going without consequence. So there is a lot to get done. And I'll close my comments by saying this. You know, as was said, you know, as a daughter of California, I really do believe in that old adage that so goes California, goes the rest of our country. And in many ways, I think that we are looking at some of the best of times, but in many ways, we are also looking at some of the worst of times. I did the commencement speech at UCLA Law School this summer, and I'm looking at it, what am I going to say to these kids who applied to law school in a very different world than they're now walking into? And, you know, it was a pretty depressing thought, but I'm supposed to give a commencement speech, so what am I going to do with that? But here's what I talked about. I talked about what I think we all know and believe, which is in times of great crisis, there are also great opportunities. And where will those opportunities come if not from California, and not from the place where we know we have always prided ourselves on our ability to lead the way, to create new models, and to be the source of innovation. And that's the work I want to do in the Attorney General's office, and I cannot do it without the support of all of you here. So I thank you, I thank you, I thank you, and I would love to answer any questions you have.